Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, January 18th, 2024. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Some $204 million have been allocated for education in Budget 2024, with $173 million in recurrent spending and $30.7 million in capital spending. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who on radio yesterday spoke on some of the major projects to be undertaken in education this year. He said government will be embarking on a new schools rehabilitation project this year, funded at a cost of $11.75 million. PM Gonsalves said the project funding will comprise of a soft loan provided by the Saudi Fund for Development of $10.3 million and a local loan of $1.4 million.
The duration for this is 2024 to 2025. The budget for this year is $2.2 million, and this will deal with the extensive repair and rehabilitative work on the educational institutions across St. Vincent and Grenadines. Johnny P, because the money will be there from the Saudi fund. If we can spend more this year, we will spend it.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. We budget less actually than what we think we will spend on this, because we'll have the money. Then there's a project for the construction of a Brighton school. You heard Camilo on that in the budget.
Yeah.
It's a new project. It will cost us $16.8 million. Financed largely by a soft loan from the Saudi Fund for Development of $13.4 million and a local loan of just over $3 million. This project is between this year and 2026. The budget for this year, again, put it smaller, but the plan is to design the school this year and start the construction and finishing it in 2026.
The Prime Minister said they will also be constructing a technical and vocational education training center in Union Island, costing just over $3 million, financed largely by a soft loan from the Saudi Fund of $2.8 million and the balance from a local loan. The project is expected to be completed next year, with the budget this year including monies for the design and start of construction. He said upgrade work on the Emmanuel High School is also expected this year.
We have to finish that upgrade. The project cost is just over $500,000. We spent already roughly half of it. We have another half to spend to complete this project this year. And I really want this to be done substantially during the long vacation. You know what I mean, Johnny
Yes,
P?
okay. Mm-hmm.
Then there's a project called OECS Program for Education Advancement and Relevant Learning. This is financed by a grant of $3.8 million from the Global Partnership Education. And we put in a little amount of $80,000. The budget for this year is over $800,000. The objective really of this project is to expand access and improve student learning in basic education through, among other things, what is called the Program for Education Advancement and Relevant Learning, the PEARL. Mm-hmm. That's another one which is, we're doing it all the time now, Johnny P. Yeah? You ain't seen it. It ain't flashy, but it's strengthening the operations of the schools and learning and teaching.
On the Human Service Delivery Project, the Prime Minister said the government has allocated $4.3 million for the project this year.
It has been running from 2017 and we'll go to 2025. We have spent so far on that project $14 million. Very quietly, you know. They might be sweet Jesus, Johnny P.
Yes.
It's not flashy, but consolidating the human development service delivery. The budget for that in 2024 is $4.43 million. What are the components? There are 4 components. First, strengthening pedagogy. That is to say, learning for basic and special needs education. That's the first. Second, building responsive social protection service delivery systems, because we have to protect more vulnerable people. Thirdly, strengthening labor market systems and improving skills of poor and vulnerable populations. And then, of course, the fourth aspect would be the monies for project implementation, monitoring, and evaluation.
The Prime Minister left the state today for Uganda, where he will be attending the 3rd South Summit of the Group of 77 and China. In other local news now, we hear that a march and church service was held today in Kingston as part of the 60th anniversary celebrations of the Bishop College, Kingston. The church service was held at the Anglican Cathedral. Several hymns were sung, scriptures were read, and remarks from past student Lafon Cato, Principal Insa Prince Duncan, Senior Education Officer for Secondary Education, Dr. Godwin James, and the Bishop of the Diocese of the Windward Islands and Chairman of the Board of Governors, Reverend Leopold Friday. The sermon was delivered by past student Bishop Sonny Williams, who commended the Anglican Church for their impact on the lives of children in St. Vincent and the Grenadines with the provision of primary and secondary education.
And I believe 60 years ago, Bishop Pigott heard that directive to educate Vincentian children. Like the miracle came about because there was a need. The people were hungry. And the Vincentian children were left in the cold because the places in secondary schools were insufficient. And many of us didn't have a chance at the elite schools. And I believe God said to the bishop, educate them. So we celebrate today with the Anglican community because the Anglican community and Bishop Pigott, they were the John the Baptist. They were the forerunners of universal education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the others, the Catholic schools and the Methodist schools.
Pioneer past student of the Bishop College, Kingston, Lafon Cato, recalled the commencement of the Bishop College Secondary in 1964.
The first day I entered Bishop's College, we wore the same color skirts, but we had blouse on our hips, and we were all stylish, so we liked that. We wore Panama straw hats. Some of you wouldn't know what is a Panama hat. And we wore blazers. But we must remember that Bishop Pigott was from Europe, and in those schools they wore blazers. But could you imagine putting a blazer in the tropics? But we had no choice. But in those days, the days were not as hot as now, so we really didn't complain. We wore our blazers proudly. The school, from had its humble beginnings, attracted sporting talent, and with the encouragement of staff, made great strides. In spite of a lack of sporting facilities, Bishop's College became a formidable force in secondary school sports, previously dominated by the then leading schools, Boys Grammar School and Girls High School. However, it's a record in netball in its particular outstanding. We produce some top-class players, not only at the school's level, but at the national level as well.
Outlining the other planned activities for the 60th anniversary celebration, Principal of the Bishop College, Kingston, Isna Prince Duncan, said that the school has come a long way.
On this, the occasion of our 60th anniversary, we have a number of activities planned. The past students will be having a banquet on Saturday. The school, we have some school-centered activities. One of the things I want to talk about this morning will be the added dimension we'll be adding to our inter-house championships this year. Now, I know that every year we would have sports, but we want for this year, our 60th year, to be able to accommodate all of our past students and past teachers and our parents to come in and be a part of the competition, the excitement, the rivalry that doesn't seem to die. So this year, our sports will begin at 3 in the afternoon at the Victoria Park. Thursday, the 1st of February, We'll begin at 3 and we'll go into the evening. That would allow everyone the chance to come in and support not just the present students, but if you still have some juice remaining, participate in one of our mixed relays where we'll have competition for our senior students to see what they could do against each other in the spirit of fun.
Sharing personal experiences of the Bishop College Kingston Senior Education Officer for Secondary Schools, Dr. Godwin James, encouraged the students to make good use of the opportunity that they have been given to attend this school.
Let the saying, youth is wasted on the young, not be said of you. Having made it to 60 years, the Bishop's College Kingston continues to hold its own among the 27 secondary schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is one of 7 government-assisted secondary schools in the country. As the school attains this important milestone of 60 years of existence, we ask the Board of Governors, the principal, the faculty, the students, and other stakeholders, not only to reflect on the journey that has brought you thus far, but that you reimagine what the future should and would look like for the students of the Bishop's College Kingston. And the questions that you should ask are, does the present curriculum adequately prepare the students to be 21st century learners? Does it imbue them with the skills and the values they require to navigate their way in a world that is vastly different from what it was in 1964? Are the vision and mission of the school still relevant today as they were when they were first crafted? These questions should be given serious thought if the school is to provide an education that is fit for purpose. Schools cannot remain primarily rooted in the ways of operating that suited St. Vincent and the Grenadines before its independence. There is need for there to be transformation in education.
With the increase of earthquakes across the region, the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, has increased its earthquake preparedness and awareness activities to get Vincentians ready for such a hazard. This is according to Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, who on the VC3 Roundtable program last evening said they are increasing their public awareness outreach campaigns on earthquakes and other geological hazards.
An earthquake, and we saw that in 2007, I believe, November 29, 2007, when we had that 7.4 magnitude earthquake, where we saw a lot of persons panicking, and hence that's why we are doing this program on earthquake readiness and preparedness, because we recognize that a lot of persons do not know the proper actions to take, especially when there's an earthquake and of course a tsunami. So we have been focusing in the last 2 years on tsunamis, and we also thought it best now because of the increasing earthquakes in the region. We have seen the reaction. We saw the 5.4 earthquake in Jamaica last year, and we saw the reaction and the damage that occurred in that country. And we know similar things can happen, not only in St. Vincent, but as some of the other territories. And we thought it best that we need to increase that awareness on the actions that we need to take as citizens in the event of an earthquake. So the concern is that we need to increase the preparedness in terms of the level of education and knowledge of the population to be able to act or react properly or plan for an earthquake better. So there's some concern, yes. The thing is, we know we hear the scientists have been saying a long time, we haven't had a big one for a while, and we don't know when that is going to happen. And so we have to continue our readiness and we have to continue our preparedness. So it's on that backdrop that we have really launched the program and focuses a bit more on earthquakes for 2024, given the increasing number of quakes that we have been seeing.
Professor Richard Robertson of the UWI Seismic Research Center said earthquakes and hazards are shaking of the surface of Earth resulting from a sudden release of energy in the lithosphere, creating seismic waves. He further explained the effects an earthquake may have on a country.
The shaking of the ground can cause damage to buildings because fundamentally buildings are not designed, they're designed to withstand load in a particular way. They're not designed to be shifted from side to side, which is what earthquakes tend to do. They shake them from side to side, and buildings usually are nicely designed to deal with the load from the top. You put in stacks on top of each other rather than them shaking from side to side. So building damage is the first thing, and the primary thing that we see. Shaking of objects, things fail that have been built, whether it is buildings, whether it is highways, whether it is any structure that man puts on the ground, it can be affected by the shaking of the ground. Secondly, the shaking of the ground can cause the earth itself, the ground itself. If the ground is made up of granular material, fine-grained material, solid material, it can have this effect which we call liquefaction. It could cause the solid material to start behaving like a liquid. So instead of it being strong enough to hold structures in it, the structures could fail in it. They could collapse over. So you have, secondly, liquefaction. Thirdly, you could have things like landslides occurring, because if you have areas where you have loose material, this loose material can fail, especially if they're unstable, because again, the shaking of the ground. And then you have secondary effects like fires. You know, the ground shakes and it can cause power lines to rupture, it can cause fires to start. And then one of the big things, in fact, from earthquakes, one of the largest effects from earthquakes particularly is the secondary fires.
Professor Robinson said that earthquakes are unpredictable, hence the reason persons must be prepared at all times to deal with such a hazard.
No. What we can do, we can study earthquakes, and based on the studies that we have, and based on the studies that we have done, in fact, in the region, we have a fairly good idea of where earthquakes, damaging earthquakes can occur in the region. You know, you could see where they're clustered. They tend to be in areas, particular areas. So we could detect that there are certain areas that have a higher probability of an earthquake of a certain size occurring. But in terms of prediction, in the sense that we could tell you exactly when and precisely when the next earthquake of a certain size can happen, that's something that has been worked on for many years. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. That's kind of like the, you know, quote-unquote holy grail of seismologists to a certain extent, to try to get to that stage. But it's difficult because the processes involved in doing that it's difficult to understand and to predict how they actually operate, because the process involved in the build-up of stress and the release of stress related to plate movements is really quite complex, and we're still trying to grapple with that. So prediction is not possible, but from studies that we have done, we can have a fairly good idea of where the earthquakes can happen, and therefore we could produce seismic hazard maps that could inform engineers who can then make sure that they build structures that can withstand the shaking that the earthquake has.
An update now on the weather. In its 72 hours forecast, the SVG Met Services says occasional isolated showers may interrupt fair conditions for the remainder of today as unstable conditions linger across St. Vincent and Grenadines. It says the chance of showers increases as Friday progresses and into early Saturday. On Sunday, a ridge pattern should dominate the weather conditions across the islands, allowing for more pleasant conditions. Strong east-northeasterly to easterly trades are crossing the islands, becoming east-southeasterly from Friday afternoon. Winds are expected to become easterly from late afternoon Sunday. Seas are expected to remain moderate, possibly rough at times in open waters, with swells peaking at 1.8 meters on the western coast and ranging between 2.5 meters to 3.0 meters on the eastern coast. Small craft operators and seabathers are asked to be prepared for above normal sea swells. No significant haze intrusion is forecast for the period under review. The World Pediatric Project, the WPP, has kicked off their activities for the year by hosting its general surgery team here in SVG. It is the first mission team for 2024 and is said to be progressing smoothly. As part of a mission, a general surgery clinic was held at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital on Sunday, January 14th. A news release says 37 children were assessed on that day, with 16 surgeries scheduled to take place between Monday, January 15th and today, Thursday, January 18th. The total number of patients seen on clinic day included both local and regional families from St. Lucia, Dominica, and Grenada. The team is being led by Pediatric General Surgeon Dr. Jeffrey Lushkish, who said they have been able to provide some outstanding care and that the operations thus far have been going smoothly, with a hope of finishing the surgical week on the same note. Dr. Jasmine Ellis Davey, who partners closely with Dr. Lukish, shared the same sentiment, stating that the mission has been going well, noting that they will be doing 2 NUSS procedures for patients with a deformity of the sternum or rib cage area, as well as a few other simpler cases. Dr. Ellis Davey expressed gratitude to the sponsors of the mission and everyone who makes the WPP missions possible. Motor vehicular accidents due to reckless driving continue to be an issue of concern for the Traffic Department of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. 2023 saw an increase in motor vehicular accidents in comparison to 2022, which recorded 781 accidents. This information was provided on the Cop Chat program on WFM by head of the traffic branch of the RSVG Police Force, Assistant Superintendent Panel Brown, who said in 2022 there were 31,000 registered motor vehicles in SVG, and in 2023 that number increased to over 36,000.
We have seen a vast increase in the amount of vehicles that was registered in St. Vincent and Grenadines for 2023. So hence the roads, the road we were that make wider, and it's the same road. 31,000 plus vehicles were driving that the 36,000 plus have to drive on. So there are more vehicles and the spaces have become limited for parking and so on and so forth. Hence, we have seen also an increase in trucks that are over 8 tons on our roads. So it's an increase in all departments in terms of motor vehicle entering the state. And our responsibilities have always been to maintain law and order, to ensure that the road is safe for all road users. We continue to see people being literally reckless or careless on our roads.
ASP Brown said they are also seeking to clamp down on reckless driving by operators of trailer trucks.
The businesses will suffer because we will deal with them in accordance with the law. They are too reckless on our roads. The speed as to which they approach corners, and some of them, 99% of them, when they approach these corners, they don't blow their horn, and they are on the other lane, driving as if to say, you're small, I am big, you have to stop for me. We are not going to tolerate this sort of action on our roads.
Start
We
preparing
are not going to tolerate it. I am sending a warning. The businesses, when you contract these trailer drivers or owners to do business for you, ask them please to drive moderately and with sense on our road. We are not going. We at the police and we at the traffic department, we are not going to tolerate this sort of reckless driving and telling me that you're trying to move containers from port because of the time you're given. So you're putting people's life at risk for that.
On the gun amnesty, ASP Brown said members of the RSVG Police Force have to work together with members of the public to get illegal guns off the streets to make SVG a safer place for all.
You will have listened to the commissioner in his press conference where we are going to declare the gun amnesty. That is a perfect example of where you need the cooperative community. The news said this morning, 5 persons have handed in their illegal weapons based on the window that law enforcement have opened for them. So this is where, now if they had decided to keep them, the police would not have known where they hide them, where they snatch them, or what they're doing with them. But the truth, that is why I told you, we need the cooperative community, that is policing. We need the cooperative community to also assist in making St. Vincent and the Grenadines safer.
Okay.
We need it in crime situation, we need it in traffic situation, we need it in fires, every situation we need it in. We need to work hand in hand to make St. Vincent and the Grenadines a better place.
And in its quest to further improve its relationship with members of the public and create safer communities, the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force is embarking on a series of activities across the country to bolster its community policing strategy as outlined in the organization's 2024 calendar of events. At this time, a town hall meeting is taking place in Layu at the government school for residents of Pembroke, Buckerment, Layu, and the surrounding villages. The meeting is expected to hear from members of the police hierarchy and leaders in the community. Several issues have been listed to be discussed at the meeting, including but not limited to a report from the divisional commander about policing crime and citizen safety in the community, ways in which the police and community can work more efficaciously to combat crime and improve community relations. The gun amnesty, the way forward, the police say. At the meeting, residents will also be allowed to air their views and opinions on the crime situation in the community, ask questions and offer suggestions, solutions on how to deal with crime.